Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Elephant in the Room. How are you, everybody? First and foremost, just want to take this opportunity to wish all the Buddhists out there happy Vesak Day. All right. Hope you're having a blissful celebration at home this year because of the lockdown and you can't go to the temples. But nevertheless, we promise you to have another exciting show today. And as we are going through our series, we are actually looking at impact to businesses in different regions. So the last 2 days, we first had Dr. Tare on Tuesday, all the way from Cairo, Egypt. Yesterday, we had Vertica from India, all the way from New Delhi. And today, we have one interesting gentleman. Maybe Taranjeet, you want to introduce him?
For sure. Thank you, Muyan. So yes, the issues that we are facing today is something which is becoming quite prevalent. It is prevalent rather. And to help us address some of these issues that are burning in our minds, especially from an Indonesian perspective, is Rifki. Rifki is the head of HR strategy and planning, and is a member of the nomination and remuneration committee at ABM Investma, which is a public listed Indonesian energy company. He's also the non-executive director at Better & Co, a consulting company focused on people development, agile transformation. Rifki has worked in a variety of countries around Southeast Asia in various sectors. For me personally, I've had the pleasure of working professionally with Rifki, and it's our absolute delight to welcome Rifki to Elephant in the Room. Rifki, welcome.
Hi, Rifki.
Hi, Taranjeet. Hi, Mihan. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me here.
Great, great. We are so happy to see you here. So without further ado, maybe we are here again for those who have just joined us, Elephant in the Room, and we are hosting Rifki all the way from Jakarta, and we want to talk about COVID-19 impact on the entrepreneurs in Indonesia. But before we get into that big question, I would just like to get everybody to say hello, just comment hi in the comment section and tell us where you're listening and watching this from so that we can do a shout out to you later. And if you can do a share and watch party for us, that will be amazing so that more people can watch this. All right, so let's get down to business. So Rifki, maybe let's start with a bigger question. How do you help, maybe you can share with us the perspective of the business landscape in Indonesia, maybe pre-COVID and also now that COVID happened and also the lockdown happened. Maybe can you just give us that perspective?
All right, thank you, Mihan. I would like to start it off to give you a description of how Indonesia looked like pre-COVID. So in 2019, the GDP of Indonesia is about 1.1 trillion USD with 4% annual growth rate in the last 5 years. Out of those 1.1 trillion USD, there are 5 big sectors who contribute to 80% of it. Number one is manufacturing, which is contributing about 20% of the GDP. And then you have retail and trade, agriculture, construction, and also mining and energy. So you can see that Indonesia is quite big in producing and also distributing the goods. While those sectors are experiencing, those sectors are big, but they are experiencing slower growth, and we are now recently seeing a higher growth in newer sectors like services and IT. And then they are especially supported by a special government agency called BICRAF. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thank you for those who have just joined us. We have Rifki all the way from Jakarta, and we like to invite all of you to start posting your question for Rifki, especially on the impact of COVID-19 to the Indonesian economy as well as to the businesses there. And also do let us know where you are listening this from. And maybe we will do some quick shout out first before I'll get the next question. we have Dr. Mike from Singapore. Thank you, Dr. Michael Heng, for coming in. We also have my good friend, good brother, Ted Mui. Hi. Singh is on the line. Hi, Singh. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, and I think this is somebody you know, Rifki. Okay, so thank you, Pak, for tuning in. All right, so cool. Maybe I'll get Taranjeet maybe to ask the next question. Sorry. Maybe I will just jump in. So in that aspect, Rifki, maybe could you talk about the relationship currently, because I think one of the biggest impact of the COVID is towards the employers and employees. So how is that relationship changing currently in Indonesia?
Okay, so as you can see, Indonesia has been banking on domestic consumption and micro and small medium enterprise as the backbone of the economy. Those economic sector has been a key element in helping Indonesia surviving in throughout many crises. But now with the COVID situation, we have limitation in terms of mobility, and that impacts how people could spend their money. People who typically can go to many places to spend their money and then help the economy going, now they cannot do that. So it definitely have a negative impact on the overall economy of Indonesia. And then you nowadays you see that several sectors are already in a difficult situation because of that. They are experiencing lower revenue for sure, and some even doesn't even have revenue, like the hospitality industry. And then with that situation, you as an employee, you will starting to see people are being let go, or being the salary are being cut off, and then at the end, in turn, it will become a downward spiral, because you have your economy is depending on how people spending, but then the people power to spend become less with the fact that they are either being laid off or being their salary being cut down, right? So it's just becoming worse.
Absolutely. So if I take this and I'll go one step further, the focus on the minds of the SMEs, the business owners. You're a business owner yourself. How has this now impacted yourselves, people like you, in terms of managing the costs, managing the whole operating model that we are thinking about? It's a very different world out there. How is that playing out for you, Rifki, and for people who are in the entrepreneurial side?
Right. As a business owners, there are three things that is, I think, going on in their mind right now. The first is that your value is being tested right now. You can say that your employee is your biggest asset, your most important asset. That very word will be tested. That's one. And second, you need to make sure that how you can survive this situation and then come out stronger. And I believe this is now the first time in the history that every company have their business continuity plan in place. Before, they never even thought about that.
Yeah.
And then third, now it's the time for you to reevaluate your business portfolio. If you're sitting on cash, then it's the right time.
Good. Okay, good. So that's from a business owner's perspective, and I love the three areas you've asked to focus on. What about from an employee's perspective, Rifki? Now, we've got a lot of people who are probably in the middle to lower income, segment, I would imagine. Right. And given the my majority of the people are playing at that level, implications on potential retrenchment, implications on how this is going to make a change, is going to have a significant impact on their livelihood. What's the implication there?
Yeah, as an employee, I think there are 5 things that you need to consider. One is, how do you stay productive? in this new way of working, because it's not only about managing yourself, it's also about managing your kids at home, you know. Because you're not the only one who works at home, your kids also study at home. So that's a tough challenge. Even for someone who is an advocate of working from home, I think they will be reconsidering their position now. And then second is how you can manage your team remotely effectively, right? Because Asia in general is we are in a culture where your team typically works better when you are around, right? Now with you not around, how do you do that? And then third is how you can make sure that you effectively collaborate as a team using digital tools that you never even know that it exists before. And then four, how you can survive just in case that your employment is terminated because of the current situation. How can you take advantage of whatever the government has provided? And then, of course, you need to learn new skills just to make sure that you can survive in whatever conditions.
Okay, so I like how you have put the four things, and I think the first three is something that we've been talking about in the last few weeks with our different guests or even among ourselves in that sense. I think that is very true. I think the context of changing, so we're talking about commuting, teleworking in that sense, changes, as well as tools to work remotely and things like that. So before I push to the next question, I just wanted to again welcome those who have just joined us. Welcome to our show, Elephant in the Room. We go on live every day, 6 p.m. Malaysian time on Facebook Live on this page that you are watching this. As well as I wanted to just do a quick shout out to all the people that just joined us. Maybe I'll do that together with Rifki. So I think this is Librada Ila. Good morning. Hi.
Good morning.
So we have Catherine as well. Catherine, my good friend. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And this is so you must be, you know him, right? All right.
Yeah.
As well as a friend from my good friend, Jack Tan. All right, Jack Tan. Hi. Happy Vesak to you first. So we have a question here from one of our audience and also a good friend of mine, Singh. So Singh asked this question that we don't hear the number of cases and death of COVID as compared to the ones that we hear in Malaysia, because Malaysia it become like stock market like that. Every day at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock we chase that number. But I think in Indonesia we hear less of it compared to other countries. So just wanted to know, maybe you can give us some idea what is happening on the ground. Is it a testing issue or is it a reporting issue or what? What maybe you can share with us?
Right. I think it's quite a serious issue in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta, with the fact that we are currently on a lockdown situation. That means that it's a serious issue. At the national level, there is about 12,000 people infected with COVID, and then we have 7% mortality rate, and then luckily better surviving rate, which is around 19%. That's when we talk about at the national level. In Jakarta itself, we have around 4,000, which is that's about 40% of the national case. And then the surviving rate and mortality rate are pretty much similar. So Jakarta is the first city in Indonesia who declare a state of emergency and also a lockdown.
Okay, so the other thing that we now maybe we can start zooming on is post-COVID. We're currently in the midst of all of this. You've mentioned certain things that employees need to look out for, relevance being one of them, things that employers need to look out for. How does this now look like? Let's move the discussion a little bit to what tomorrow looks like. What does the next 6 to 12 months look like for Indonesian businesses, predominantly the SMEs?
Right. predicting the future is always been a tough thing, eh? But I'm gonna give it my best shot.
We know you can do it, Rifki. We know you can do it. Yes.
Well, to start it off, people have started talking about the curve being flattened. So hopefully, we will be looking at a lesser case. But for sure, because we are still fighting to look for or trying to look for the vaccine. So I think we just have to learn how to live with COVID, right? So with that context, I think company nowadays post-COVID, they will be slimmer because they will relook how they operate, and then they will start to see unnecessary fat that they will be removing. That's even more so for a small medium enterprise, right? Because with their limited resources. And then social distancing and remote working will be a new normal, and that will be a tough competition to the property sector, because nowadays, SME typically they would rent out a small office or even co-working space. Now remote working will be a tough competition for them, especially that now they are getting used to it. E-commerce will be even a more dominant shopping channel. So I think SME, if they have not yet done so, they need to learn how to use e-commerce. And then travel and tourism will continue to be negatively impacted. So people in that segment need to reconsider the future area for their new venture probably. And on the lighter note, people will probably either grow longer beard or grow shorter hair like me, so it's easier to manage.
Yeah, so, cool. I love that. That's a great advice. So I think one of the things probably we were discussing just before we came on the show was also it's Ramadan now. It's the fasting month. And I think predominantly being the largest Muslim country in the world, I think in Indonesia, there's a lot of activity during Ramadan month. But now because of lockdown, that possibly could be severely impacted. So we can imagine, I mean, in KL itself or in Malaysia itself, we can see that. But how is it in Jakarta? Maybe you can share with us.
Yeah, it's definitely, if not the same, it will be worse here in Jakarta. Because typically this is the month where people would, from the economic point of view, they would reap the benefit. Even if you're not selling food on your day-to-day life, now is the time. Typically, people will start selling something, whatever. And then with this COVID situation where you cannot move as freely as you wish, that activity is very now become very limited. You cannot go to street vendor to prepare for your breakfasting, or you cannot go shopping for your raya clothes, or you cannot even visit your friend or family to have to breakfast together with them. Well, this is the another new reality that Muslim country like Indonesia and Malaysia has to face.
Indeed. What is also intriguing for me is sitting here looking at all the stuff that is taking place within Southeast Asia, and Indonesia is part of this. The whole facet around cost of doing business. You've rightly pointed out, we need to be extra careful, social distancing, health screening. All this will have an implication on how we conduct our businesses. Cost is going to go up. Construction cost is going to go up because we can't have all these different employees coming in at the same time.
Right.
What is the implication of that, and what are your thoughts, especially in the energy sector? You employ the sector employs quite a sizable workforce. How is this going to play out, Rifki?
Right. Well, for sure, in the sector like ourselves, in the energy sector, the way we work will be different. Like the way we so you have to look at it from two angles. One is how we operate at the site and how we operate at the office. At the office, it will be pretty much similar like any other office, right? Maybe you need to take turn. Like a week you'll be in the office, and then the following week it'll be your fellow to be that will be in the office. And then on the site, at the site level, how you the way you manage the shift changes will also need to be revisit, relook, to make sure that you minimize interaction between people, hence lowering the probability of getting infected with COVID.
No, absolutely, and that's my point. The moment I start reducing the number of people at site, and I can't work from home if I'm at the site. If the moment I start reducing that, that has a direct correlation on the time spent on projects. Right. It has, right. I mean, if I need 20 people to operate a particular machinery, I need 20 people. But now I'm only running with 10. So what are your thoughts around this? And how are we as companies trying to address that in a more cost-effective fashion?
Right. Well, even before the COVID situation, company, especially in the mining sector, they are already considering of doing automation at the mine site level. Well, now that's definitely there will be a bigger push now, because maybe before they are considering about the cost implication, but now they are that cost implication is kind of balanced out by the loss of productivity risk that you have. So I think pre-COVID, you may see more and more mining company are trying to automate their mining process.
Okay, thanks for that perspective. We have a few questions here, so I want to quickly get you to look at it. So first one is from Ben. So Ben asked that, say that he has met many talented Indonesians that been in Malaysia for many years. Majority feedback to him that there isn't enough jobs to go around, especially in big city like Jakarta or even the secondary cities. So is the scenario still true? And if it is, do you see more Indonesian moving abroad post-COVID?
If you talk about there isn't enough jobs to go around in Jakarta, that's kind of contradict the situation actually, because in Indonesia we are in shortage of talent. Unemployment rate is pretty low; it's like 4% something. But if you are talking about like the quality of life, perhaps that's another thing that push people to go overseas, but with the current situation post-COVID, I would say there's a big chance that there are a lot of Indonesian going overseas. Not just Indonesian, I think just mostly a country in Asia with a lot of let's take Italy for example, right? And there are a lot of problem with COVID that causing number of population to drop down significantly. So that that's an area where if you are considering going overseas, that's maybe an opportunity for people from Asia where it's.
No, so I totally agree. I mean, and this is something that has been very prevalent over the last week and a half. In all of this tumultuous change that is taking place, there's always room for opportunities.
Right.
The question now comes in is what type of opportunities are there, and does it make sense for us to consider those opportunities? And you've got likes of Sushil talking about this from Singapore. You've got the likes of Dr. Tariq talking about it from Cairo, and I totally agree with that. There are some very nice questions also, or some shout outs here. There you go, Michael Heng. Post-COVID, what would be the greatest needs of SMEs? Are we talking about stimulus and loans, cash payments from government? What's the best thing for investment?
Post-COVID, cash will definitely be a big help to the economy, because now during this COVID situation, there's certainly a big loss of cash. Yeah.
Yes.
And government in Indonesia, they have created several stimulus for the SME. Like they are lessening the fiscal term. Like now SME are no longer required to pay tax, and then also if you have loan, you can defer your loan payment. So that certainly helps the SME. But
Yeah.
still, with your cash being every day, it's getting lower and lower
Burn.
because you have to
Yes.
burn. Then cash will definitely be a big help post-COVID.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Sengbi, a very close and dear friend, also asked, do you foresee high unemployment rate coming in over the next 12 months? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. There will be. I do see that the unemployment rate will be picking up. Luckily, our government has already prepared some initiative to help people who may be unemployed later and reskill them, and hopefully it's enough for them to start something before until at least the economy recover and they can get reemployed.
Good. One last question around digitization, and this is. If Muihan will put it out, if we're talking about the digital business post-COVID, in fact, pre-COVID as well, how do you see digitization playing out within the Indonesian landscape? Is the infrastructure there to support organizations in this regard?
If you're talking about digitization, definitely it will be there even post-COVID. It will stay there. The infrastructure are there. So I think we are going to maintain this new way of working. Yeah, it will no longer be a question of how can you do digital transformation, because you're being pushed to transform yourself into a digital
Absolutely.
era.
Absolutely. Just one last one before we start wrapping up. I've got a bit of a shout out here from the Malacca gang. Muihan, we got some nice individuals returning to the fold. And this is, I think, someone that you know, Rifki.
Yes, definitely.
So good, very nice. There we go, another someone that you know, very nice. And we have Ranjit. There we go. Hi, Ranjit from Malacca. Well done. So Muihan, perhaps we could start wrapping up. We're cognizant of time.
Yes. So I think thank you to Rifki for spending the last half an hour with us to give us a good perspective on Indonesia. And I think I personally always feel that Indonesia is a very, very exciting market. I used to work for an Indonesian firm for about 2 years. And every other month I will go there for 1 week to Jakarta. And every time I go there, I get amazed, because of the culture of the people. And my philosophy with Indonesia is every time you are there, don't try to speak Indonesian, because Malaysian always make this simple mistake, because we understand Bahasa Malaysia, we think we understand Bahasa Indonesia, but we don't.
Right.
So maybe I will get Taranjeet. Maybe you want to share what are 3 things that can help us to summarize from Rifki's sharing this afternoon.
Absolutely. So I think there are a couple of things that are played out. One is the immensity of the impact on SMEs as a whole, the employer base. Rifki has pointed out quite nicely the 3 or 4 things that the SMEs are looking at. Cash containment, it's the same thing. And it's interesting to see this theme that is playing out across cash containment and the whole area of cost maintenance in that regard. The other one that also really impacted me was the implication on employees. I do believe that you're going to see a significant rise in the unemployment rate. We are experiencing that here in Malaysia as well. And what I now see playing out also would be, how can we lessen this? What are some of the interventions that are being taken by employers and the government alike? To be fair, everybody is talking about cash, but you know what? The cash will run out. there will be a point in time where we have no more cash to give. So what happens after that? And that is something which I think not many people are talking about, but it's a reality. The last thing that comes across is the social implication, especially during times like this with Ramadan, the whole societal implications that we are having, the inability to go to the masjid, the inability to go for the evening prayers, the get-togethers that we have. It has a significant impact on us socially as well. Earlier today, I was reading about how weddings are now being solemnized using online.
Right.
Yeah, it's so we are moving along with the times. 3 weeks ago we would not have even thought about this, but right now the boy is on that side on the screen and the girl is on this side of the screen, and we're saying whatever. So yeah, so and the last one is about hair. So I don't have any issue with that. So the only one would be Muihan. Okay, that's it from me. Muihan, back to you, buddy.
Okay, so I just want to maybe just to introduce our next guest tomorrow. We will have the proud pleasure to have with us Taranjeet Singh, all the way from Melbourne. And Taranjeet, as we were sharing with you, is going to share with us the perspective in the Australian or Oceania landscape, as well as what has the impact of COVID to their businesses, to their entrepreneurs. And I think Australia or Oceania, or Australia in that particular, will be very interesting because they just came out of a devastating bushfires, and things were supposed to recover by the beginning of this year. And then we come into COVID. So that will be very, very like to know how things are really panning out there. So with that, we'll thank you once again, Rifki, for joining us all the way from Jakarta. Thank you so much. We appreciate all your thoughts. And to all our audience, thank you for tuning in. So we hope to see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Malaysian time. And for those who are tuning in from overseas, you can check us out. It is 10 a.m. GMT time. So with that, stay safe. Hope to see you tomorrow evening.
Selamat berbuka puasa. Thank you.
Selamat buka puasa.
Bye.
Bye.